The holidays can be beautiful, but they can also reopen every wound you thought was healed. When you've lost someone you love, a parent, a partner, a sibling, a friend, the season hits differently. And suddenly, the lights are bright, but sometimes your spirit feels dim.
And if you're in midlife, you've probably experienced more loss than you talk about. But today, on today's show, we want to help you navigate the holidays with grace, remembrance, and emotional strength without stuffing your feelings or pretending you're okay. Let's make this happen for them today, Stacy. You found the Midlife Revolution Unleashed, the space to embrace your wisdom, reignite your passions, and move boldly into what's next. I am Coach Wayne, the VIP coach.
And I'm Coach Stacy M. Lewis. We're here with insights, stories, and strategies to fuel your midlife journey. So take a breath, lean in. Your revolution starts now. Hey, hey, hey. Welcome to Midlife Revolution Unleashed. I'm chuckling at myself as I just realized I had not turned my phone on vibrate. So these are the real lives and times of such creative podcast hosts as Coach Stacy and Coach Wayne. I am Coach Stacy, a midlife women's coach, a nonprofit executive, and a lover of God and his people. And I'm always so overjoyed to be here with my esteemed co-host, Coach Wayne.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you. And I'm absolutely delighted as well to be on the platform sharing with the direction of the Most High, as we always start with a prayer, you and I, in terms of just having discernment, proper discernment, so that we can honor the God we serve and be a blessing to those that are listening in. Stacy, today, after a weekend of no internet today, I feel great. And I don't take for granted losses, right? Because losses come in many ways.
That
And
is true.
we grieve differently. And so right after the start earlier, Stacy, I paused because I wanted people to really take it in and get prepared, because this is serious stuff we're talking about. So many people
Mm-hmm.
I know are affected by it, including myself and you. And so I
Mm-hmm.
wanted us to get ready today to gather some strategies and skill set to get through this tough period of dealing with losses.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good ride. For those that may not know, I lost my mom all of my life, needless to say. But at the age of 94, my mom passed away earlier this year. And certainly it has been, I guess I'll use the term a roller coaster. But in today's episode, we really want to talk about that experience and ways to honor and acknowledge the experience. And our hope is that we will leave you with some tools, some opportunities, and some good old coaching questions to get you through this season with hope, with joy, a little bit of happiness, even as you acknowledge and experience grief.
Stacy, this time of year is especially hard for folks who have had losses, because for many people, we don't care to celebrate Thanksgiving just for the turkey or Christmas for the gifts, but
Mm-hmm.
for the fact that it helps to bring family together. And you know what it feels like when grandma or mother or dad or
Mm-hmm.
somebody else was at that table, at that chair last year or previously, and they're no longer there. It really intensifies the pain.
Yes, it does. And let's acknowledge that while the main premise may be the physical loss of a human being, the reality is that sometime you experience that deep loss because of divorce. It could be the deep loss of your long loved pet. Loss is loss. We don't want to diminish or compare. In this season, the holidays, the lights, the jovial music, all of that, there are opportunities for us to acknowledge the grief that is sometimes heightened during this time, and move through it in ways that are healthy.
Stacy, you talked about just now losses. Losses is so true. I think I shared with you en route to my mental health career piece now. I'm in a group that has a lot of men, white men, most of whom are gay, but nonetheless, they share similar issues around losses, death,
Mm-hmm.
spouse,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of separation, divorce. And one gentleman talked about his pet, and he is still grieving. And it may seem to somebody else who is talking about the loss of a partner, right, a human partner, that, oh man, I'd rather lose a pet. But this pet is so much more than just a dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's an
Mm-hmm.
emptiness. And so the same strategies for how you deal with that loss can be employed for the loss that you have around a pet, or something or someone else. Very
Yeah.
significant.
Yeah, I we definitely don't want to diminish one or the other. Our listener also knows that I have a dog, and thank God right now he's doing just great. The reality though is his life expectancy is much shorter than mine.
Mhm.
So, I acknowledge that's just part of the reality, and
Mhm.
I love my dog. It
Yeah,
doesn't compare to the love I have for my mom, but love is love, right?
yeah,
And loss is loss, and the grief that we experience will not follow a calendar or an opportune moment. We talk about how grief comes in waves sometimes, and sometimes that moment is not very opportune. And it doesn't really care if we're supposed to be merry and bright because that's what the season calls for.
yeah.
Um, we can acknowledge the grief that we are in and recognize its presence just like we can recognize the presence of love.
Yeah, and Stacy, to your point, we talking here about normalizing what we're feeling.
Mm.
This
Mhm.
time of year, sometimes we get angry, we get sad, we withdraw, we go through stuff, and we don't have to think that we're weirdos or freaks. It's the way that we express and experience grief oftentimes, and just normalize it. Don't see yourself as different and weird. And as a coach, I might challenge you to say, well, what emotions come up for you this time of year? Let's name it. Let's tag it. Let's name
Mhm.
it.
Mhm. And I love what you said in the intro about this season of life, right? In midlife, and sure that many in our audience have experienced this, that as you get older, uh, the reality is that we have likely experienced more loss than our younger counterparts. Now, I'm not saying it's an all or nothing or a hard fast rule, but that is the life trajectory for the most part. And so, recognizing that it may not be just that one loss, but that cumulative loss causing those emotions that you just talked about, and really giving ourselves the opportunity to spend a little time asking ourselves that question, right? What are the emotions? Is it tied to one loss or multiple losses? And another question is, do you feel obligated or pressured to hide that grief, those emotions
Mm,
from others?
mm, that's deep. And in men, again, we have learned that we don't cry, we don't show sadness, we don't
Mm,
show our emotions. We don't get raw. We can't be authentic. And unfortunately, it's changing, but unfortunately, the stigma still is around men being tough. You know, I talked in an episode maybe last year about a funeral that I may have attended. I think it was last year.
Mhm.
And at the funeral, people were saying to the man who had lost a person in his family, you know, stand up, brother, stay strong, stay strong. Why? Why do we need to stay strong when we have had a real loss? We can
Yeah.
stay real, right? And no need to hide that we're in pain, Stacy. So
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
define. Sorry, go ahead, Stace.
No, I was just gonna say, often, listening to you talk about the stay strong, stay strong. Often people don't know what to say,
Yeah.
and even I've experienced, um, I lost my mom back in March, and as people learn of it even now, they don't know what to say,
Mm.
and so sometimes it comes out as a little, I don't wanna use the word stupid, but it's the first thing that comes to mind, right? It's just like "What? That why would I do that?" Or, someone I know, one of my coaches told me the story of how, um, someone said to her as her mom passed, uh, "Well, we all lose our mothers." You know? It's kinda like, "Okay, that's not very helpful."
Mm.
And, okay. So, I think, I just wanna acknowledge, right, that because so often societally, we've not been taught, for lack of a better word, to
Mm.
just, that death is a sad reality,
Mm.
and so, for those of us left behind, and so that is not something we're accustomed to having the right thing to say, and as you go through that experience, I think it just changes. Even I know it's changed for me, my
Mm.
ability to hold space, even if it's in silence, right?
Mhm.
Because I don't wanna say the wrong thing, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's okay to be silent, and people are just not used to that.
Yeah, we talk about also, a lot of my friends have gone through marriage. Some have gone through marriage, and some are still being working through it. And those that have had marriages that ended, even unless typically if it's not an abusive situation, but it ended because you had just different alignments, values, whatever it is, you got married to the person because you got married to the person that you thought would be a
Mhm,
life partner.
mhm.
Nobody wants to get married to end it.
Right.
And so the things that you experienced and shared while you were married oftentimes can be missed. And sometimes they are habitual stuff. And usually, holidays is a time when people express togetherness, like we talked about. And so, if you are dealing with a partner of a couple and you knew both of them, to your point, it's kind of awkward to express, how you feeling, where is John or Tom or you
Right.
know it's hard. It's very awkward. Sometimes you don't know what to say while the person is grieving for that loss, because their divorce doesn't mean that the love ended or
Mhm.
the space has been filled yet.
Right. Right. No, that's well said. The space, right? That the gift of love is that it does occupy space in you, right? In us as spiritual beings. And it does leave a void when that person leaves. And it doesn't mean that the love is gone, uh, but it does leave a void. And uh, I really strive not to use the word of God to placate, or as some, I don't know, just a flippant way of moving through a situation, yet I will say that being reminded, um, that God is close to the brokenhearted, right? And it doesn't just say brokenhearted because someone has died, right? It is your heart is broken. That God is close to the brokenhearted, and that is for me, and hopefully for many others, just a reminder: God is close to the brokenhearted, and so even though your heart is still breaking, um, that God is still with you. You are not alone.
Yeah. And Stacy, you talked about the brokenhearted. We really feel the pain. And so, one of the things as coaches we would ask you to do is to identify where in your
Mm,
body are you feeling that discomfort, that pain. And you want to zero in so that you can address it and know it for what it is. You know, broken heart can really feel like a pain in
yeah.
the chest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. And I love using embodiment, in my coaching practice. I think it is important for us to really recognize. It goes back to recognizing, to being in touch, to identifying, that when we can sense like where we feel that internally, we can begin to heal that
Yeah.
internally.
Yeah. Because you are allowed to feel sadness as human. We suggest that you don't fight it, you don't hide from it, but also recognize that your faith can get you through this and will
Mm,
get you through this. You know, there's so much to be said for folks who know that they're not alone and that there is in fact uh, lights at the end of the tunnel, and that's usually something that you can have accessible to you when you look at your faith.
yes, yes, yes. And our faith, um, it doesn't erase the grief, right? The faith, I don't know about for you, Wayne, but for me, the faith doesn't mean I don't feel grief.
No,
It simply means that it strengthens me through it, right? So it's
absolutely.
not there to erase. We're not talking about faith being the magic pill or solve or anything like that, right? But it does help to strengthen you, and again, to comfort you.
Yeah. And so the challenge would be, do you need some time alone with God? Do
Mm,
you need during this period, this season, some time to reflect? A friend of mine, he went away and he did a silent retreat, and he had
mm,
had some losses, and he was struggling with some losses as far as his adult son had sort of eloped. They were going
okay.
through a thing, and that was a
Mhm.
loss. And
Mhm.
that was room
Mm,
for grieving this
mhm.
father that had been truly so endearing to his
Mm.
beloved son. And so he took some time alone where he could be with God and have a greatest commune.
Yeah. 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 We have to give ourselves permission, right? One of our affirmations or declarations can be: I give myself permission to feel, to heal, and to be held by God. That is what we believe.
Yeah,
And certainly our hope, we're not here to convert anyone, um but for both of us, our faith is an important grounding, and so our hope is that
yeah.
that you find it helpful.
Stacey, I just came from this beautiful trip to the motherland. I was in Ghana, and for days that I'll never forget. And some of the practices that I noticed in Ghana, akin to ours. It's highly religious in terms of their faith. They're Christians.
Mm,
There's a
mhm,
church every so often punctuated everywhere, and they're Islamic folks too, and they're natural. They're folks who do the traditional thing, but the respect that they all have. There weren't people. It's happening in Nigeria, but in Ghana, there weren't people fighting each other. One of the things that I noticed is that for losses, the entire town is
mm,
notified. So they have huge placards and posters all over the entire village when there's a loss.
mm.
So if you're cooking a curry goat to have people over, you better have a herd of goats because everybody's going to show up. Say that in jest, but it's true. Weddings are the same, by the way, in Ghana. But Stacy, they celebrated the memory of their ancestors, those who have passed on. And they did that in a way to honor and keep that presence in and with them. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would say to folks, as you grieve, feel free to look at the scrapbook. Don't run away from it. Feel
Mm-hmm.
free to remember the memories. Uh, Feel free to do that. Invite that presence of what some people may run away from, the fact that that
Mm.
person was an integral part of your life.
Yes, yes, I love that. It really is acknowledging the memories as something that you have.
Yeah.
Grief is really focusing on what we no longer have,
Yeah.
right? What we lost, the memories, the good times, the funny jokes, the mannerisms, all of that is something we have. And so as we focus on what we do have, so here's an example. I keep thinking, so the last time the entire family was together before my mom passed was last Christmas. So this Christmas we'll all be together minus one. And I can't help but think about how my mother at 94, I had brought this new card game to the table. I can't even remember what the Five Crowns or something like that. It had all these complex rules. And my mother loves cards. So
Mhm.
she was learning the rules. She's spanking the youngins. You know what I mean? I'm talking about the teenagers, the 20-year-olds, the 30 years old, the myself. You know what I'm saying? She's spanking us. Pow. She's like, no, that's not the rule, right? And so I'm choosing, right? Each of us gets to decide. And so I'm choosing, even as I go to my brother's house for the holidays, which we always went there because that's where my mom was, very close to my brother. And I'm choosing to hold that memory, that experience in such bright light.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean I don't remember that there's
Mhm.
a loss, but it does mean that I'm choosing to focus on
Mhm.
what I do have. You know, we
Mhm.
still have this beautiful family despite all of its flaws and quirks and all of that, right? Because because of my mom, because of my parents, right? So I think it's the reminder that we get to choose
Yeah.
whether we're going to focus on what we no longer have or on what we do have.
Yeah. And the truth is, we've lost the physical body,
Mhm.
but the impact, as Jiro said, the
Mm.
experiences, the
Mhm.
memories, those things count. And you can choose to reject that or to embrace it.
Yeah.
Stacy,
Yeah.
I would say as an affirmation,
Mhm.
I cherish the love that lives beyond loss. It's
Mm.
something that I'm challenging or encouraging you, the listener, to use, you know, to affirm what you're going through.
Yes. 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 We get to decide. I love it. I love it. So I've shared what memories make me smile. And I think that it's a great coaching question. What memory makes you smile every single time?
Yeah. What legacy, what did your
Mm,
loved ones give to you, give to the world that lives on today?
mhm.
That's worth honoring.
It's a
That,
great question.
yeah.
Right. And
So how, go ahead,
go ahead.
Stace.
No, you go, Wayne.
I was just
Mhm.
asking about creating some rituals to heal, to honor
Mm,
your loved ones, but to heal, you know, like on the Christmas tree, hang a stocking with their name.
Yeah. Yep. Or their photo. Um, I cook. My mom cooked. She's a great cook. I think I'm a pretty good cook. I don't know if I call
Uh,
myself a great cook,
yeah.
but I do carry forward uh that feeling, and maybe it's one of those love languages, right? Maybe we shared that love language of cooking
Mhm.
for the family. And so, sometimes I cook foods that she really enjoyed. So that's
Mhm.
another way, another ritual, another thing we can do to help us heal is to cook their favorite meal, just
Yeah.
in honor of their memory.
Yeah. Now I hate old songs like I'm a young guy, but my mother loved, the Bing Crosby's, Doris Day, and some other. And sometimes I listen to that just to bring her back in that space that I loved when
Mm.
we were kids, and she was
Mhm.
there creating the sorrel. You know sorrel,
Mm,
Stacy?
yes, yes, sir. My sister called me the other day. She said, "I think I'm gonna make some sorrel."
That's
We're
right.
also West
You
Indians.
gotta
I
put
got you.
some
I
you
got
gotta
you.
put some rum up in that sorrel though, Stacy.
Well, my sister doesn't drink, but it's like she brings the sorrel, then you add to it as you so choose.
Yeah. But this is part of the memory, and
Yes,
and how you
yes,
keep the legacy and make sure that it's not that you haven't killed your own spirit, so to speak.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. You said you said Doris Day made me want to break out into que sera, sera.
Exactly, exactly.
Whatever
Stacey,
will be, will be. Mm-hmm.
my grief honors my love. My
Mm,
rituals honor their legacy. That's an affirmation that we're giving to you.
that's good. That's good. Repeat that, please, sir.
My grief honors my love. My rituals honor their legacy.
Mm,
Right. So we do those things.
that's good.
We do it in mass, right?
Right.
Veterans Day, we take a holiday, we fly flags half mast. It's really the same thing that we're talking about here, creating
Yes.
these rituals to honor legacy.
Yes. Yes. And we remember that even in those large or mass experiences, that everyone grieves differently.
Yes.
And so as we witness that those various expressions of grief, our hope is that it gives the listener very broad permission
Yes.
to grieve in their own way. It is
Yeah.
not scripted, or it doesn't have to look or be like someone else's. It
Yeah.
is to recognize that everyone grieves differently.
That's
There's
right.
no judgment.
That's right. And you have no need to explain to others how you're grieving and how long you grieve. But he's still worried about his wife. She's been dead and gone 10 years.
Mhm.
Come on now.
Mhm. Mhm.
Respect the
Yes.
process and the
Yes.
space.
Yes, and support. And
Yeah.
certainly if you are concerned from that perspective, right? Thinking that someone's grief is really gone to a place that appears unhealthy, help them get some help. Let's
Yeah.
stop talking about people and
Yeah.
judging people and whispering about people, right? As opposed to being our brother and sister's keeper and helping them move through the process.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at my cheat notes to the right here. Where do you need to create space instead of obligation?
Mm,
Yeah.
that's another one. That's a good question.
Yeah. And
That's
so,
a good question. Right. Because you have to determine your own emotional boundaries, right? And create the space that you need, not based on what someone else desires or someone else wants or someone else expects of you, but you create the space that you need because of your boundaries, not obligation? That's a good question, Wayne.
And Stacy, self created boundaries is really heightened what I would call emotional intelligence. It's self care. When you have boundaries and you set them up for yourself, people have to respect it. If you hold forth and say, "This is the boundary. You can't call me here. You can't. This is my way. I want to go to the beach and spread the ashes. Whatever you want to do, you
Right,
create your
right.
boundaries, and no one should be able to tell you that it's not okay."
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, Wayne, because this is gonna sound. Hopefully, our listeners will indulge me, because you said go to the beach and spread the ashes, but in many states, if not the government, like it's you can't spread ashes anywhere. So I was remembering all of the hoops and understandings that we had to embrace and adopt after my dad passed. He was very clear. I want to be cremated and then, you know, put me in the ocean.
Yeah.
But you just can't do that from the shore. So I just want to let those of you know. Yes, go to the beach and honor your loved one. Just make sure you're following the law,
Yeah.
because we would not want the story to be that, I went to the beach to scatter the ashes of my loved one and I ended up with a $1,000 sum.
I didn't even know that, Stacy.
We don't want that. But your point is definitely valid. And
Yeah.
so really your boundaries are something that only you can put in place and keep.
Yeah. Yeah. And before we wind up having folks do their action steps,
Mhm.
some affirmations that we think you can hold on to would include this one here. Love hasn't died; it's transformed.
Mm, that's good. That's good. Mhm. I'll go with the declaration of I honor my emotions even when others don't understand them.
Powerful. My heart is healing one day at a time.
One day at a time. Yes.
One day at a time.
Yes. I allow myself to feel without judgment.
Stace, want to leave the folks with some next steps, some assigned homework, as it were?
Absolutely. The whole goal, right, is to move through the grief and the loss, not to sit and be stuck in the loss and the weight of the emotion of the loss, but to move through. And one way to do that is to write down one joyful memory of your loved one and revisit it once a week, once a day, whatever works for you, but to really make sure that you're capturing the joy and write it down. There's something about writing things down. Um, Write it down, that joyful memory of your loved one.
And say if your excuse is I don't like writing, then tell someone, tell one trusted person what you're feeling and what your needs are. Okay?
Yeah, yeah. I think, again, we have to give ourselves permission as well to, if you need to skip the event because you're just not emotionally ready, that's okay. If you need to set aside what is called or what has been deemed a tradition, because it actually has become something that has lost its joy, set that aside for now.
Stace, I believe in therapy. I believe in coaching. I believe that if you're going through some of this stuff, some losses, some emotional grieving right here this season, reach out to a coach such as Stacy or myself, and we'll help you go through some of the struggles and the hardships or the the denials, whatever it is that is raised, even the anger. We will
Mm-hmm.
try to help you get through those. And
Mm-hmm.
if needed, we'll refer you for further counseling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. It is indeed our joy, and we are here to be of service and encourage our midlife community. Uh, Grief doesn't take a holiday, but neither does love.
Stacy, tell the folks just at least one major takeaway from today's episode.
One major takeaway is that your grief is valid, it is sacred, and it is uniquely yours.
And I would add, thank you, Stacy, that was powerful. I would add that healing doesn't mean forgetting. Healing
Mm.
doesn't mean forgetting. Stacy, we're at the bottom of the hour. We've done it again.
Well, we want to thank our listener for being here at the Midlife Revolution Unleashed. I'm Coach Stacy, and I'm cheering you on.
And you know me, I'm Coach Wayne, and I'll definitely see you at the top.
Thanks for tuning in to Midlife Revolution Unleashed. We're grateful you're part of this journey.
If you love this episode, share it, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss another episode.
I'm Coach Stacy, and I'm cheering you on.
And I'm Coach Wayne, and I'll see you at the top.